All right. Welcome, everyone. It is Monday, August the 21st. It is 5 o'clock. I'm going to call the regular scheduled board meeting together for the Bernie ISD Board of Trustees. We do have a quorum. We have Jessica Davila, myself, Carlin Fryer, Rich Senna, and Christy Schmidt. Dr. Tidwell will not be with us tonight. He's traveling, and Miss Gonzalez-Cooper is ill, so she will not be with us tonight. Mr. Wilson will be here. He's just running a little bit late. So at this point in time, we're going to go into closed session for discussion of personnel under Section 551.071, .074, and .082 of Texas Government Code. Deliberation regarding matters related to employment, appointments, resignations, terminations, retirements, and reassignments. And then deliberation regarding the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property pursuant to Section 551.072. So it is 5:02, and we'll be going into closed session. All right, good evening. Welcome back. It is August 21st. This is the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of Bernie ISD. Coming out of closed session into open session, we do still have a quorum. Dr. Tidwell joined us and Mr. Wilson joined us. We have Jessica Davila, Garrett Wilson, Superintendent Dr. Thomas Price, myself, Carlin Fryer, Rich Senna, Christy Schmidt, and Joe Tidwell present. At this point in time, Mr. Benway, I'm going to turn it over to you for our opening pledges in silence.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this time, would you all please rise? And gentlemen, please remove your caps for the presentation of colors by Boy Scout Troop 102.
Color guard, attention. Color guard, forward, march. Color guard, prepare to post the colors. Post the colors. Hand salute. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please join me in the Texas Pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
And now please remain standing for a moment of silence and prayer. Thank you. You may be seated.
Color guard, reform ranks. Color guard, forward, march. Color guard, halt. Color guard at ease.
And now, Mr. President, these scouts would love to have some questions from the board to them. They want our audience to know what the scouts are all about.
Well, first off, thank you for coming in and doing this at our meeting this evening. Would each of you mind introducing yourselves and then just tell us how old you are and how long you've been in the Scouts?
I go to Champion High School, and I am 16 years old.
Hi, I'm Carlos Olson Martinez, and I go to Bernie Middle School North, and I'm 11 years old.
Hi, I'm Levi Mummy. I go to Bernie Middle School North, and I'm 12 years old.
Hi, I'm Aiden Bondanza. I am 11 years old and I go to Bernie Middle School North.
Hi, my name is Justin Gines. I am 14 years old and I go to Champion High School.
Awesome. How long have each of you been in the Scouts?
I've been since first grade.
First grade too.
I've been in Scouts since fourth grade.
I've been in Scouts since second.
I've also been in Scouts since first grade.
What other questions does board members?
Y'all still, y'all meet at the Methodist Church?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Not that anybody else here cares, but I was in your scout troop. So Mr. Josephus Weber was, we had a number of scoutmasters, but he was outstanding. More important people have been through your scout troop. Some of the Mooring boys, including was in scouts with the older brother, the current, I think, police chief in Fair Oaks. So you have a great troop. I enjoyed it. I hope y'all do too. So
Thank you, sir. We do.
What's the average amount of time that y'all volunteer or dedicate to the Scouts on a monthly basis?
We have 4 monthly meetings, 1 a week, and we have 1 camp out. So that's 4 hours plus 48, 52 hours-ish.
To the younger scouts, I have 2 questions. To the younger scouts, what do you like best about scouts? And to the older scouts, is your goal to be an Eagle Scout?
I really like that we have independence of like doing like adding our agenda and really doing like not like you're based off like your mom saying, oh, you have to go to Scouts today. You have to tell your mom like what's happening. You have to be independent for yourself.
Levi? Aiden, do you have?
What I like about scouting is the campouts. I like how they're really fun, and I get to practice all my camping skills, including like cooking, setting up tents, and stuff
fires.
like that. Fires.
Fires has to be at the top of the
Fire.
list. Yeah. Oh, come on.
My favorite thing about scouting has to be meeting new friends.
I'm one of the older Scouts, so I would say, yeah, my goal is to be an Eagle Scout someday.
My intent is also to become an Eagle Scout, and if all goes well, I will actually reach that rank by the end of the year.
Outstanding. Well, thank y'all very much. Y'all did a very good job.
Thank you.
Who's your scoutmaster? Give him a shout out while you're up.
Mr. Jeff Carroll. He is our Scoutmaster currently. So, yeah. Anything else?
Well, thank you to all y'all, and thank you to him.
Appreciate it. All right, next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Does anybody have any questions? And if not, I'd entertain a motion. I have a motion and a second. Approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Mr. Benway, back to you for commendations.
Thank you, Mr. President, Dr. Price, Board of Trustees, and our esteemed guests tonight. If we could have our board and Dr. Price please come down to the floor for our photos. If you haven't been to one of our board meetings, this is my favorite part. This is where we commend our students and staff and community members for their outstanding accomplishments. Tonight, we will honor well over 100 students and staff in Bernie ISD. We have 11 total commendations. And so as our board and Dr. Price come down, I want to introduce you to our first commendation of the evening, which honors Bernie High School for winning the Dan Cook Cup for the 3rd straight year. This award is given annually by the San Antonio Express News to the best overall high school sports program in San Antonio and the surrounding area. Over the past year, the Greyhounds athletic department has had tremendous success, including Sam and Jess Gonzalez winning the boys doubles state tennis championship, The Greyhounds football and tennis teams earning state silver medals. The boys and girls basketball teams making Final Four appearances, and the boys soccer team as well as the girls soccer team Final Four appearances over the last few years, among many others. The Greyhounds also finished second in the Lone Star Cup statewide. And for the Dan Cook Cup history, Bernie ISD has won 10 of the 20 years in the history of the Dan Cook Cup. So they've won half of all time for the Dan Cook Cup. Congratulations to the Dan Cook Cup winners, the Bernie Greyhounds. Congratulations, go Greyhounds! Our next commendation celebrates 4 Texas High School Coaches Association Region 8 Coaches of the Year. Let's give our coaches a round of applause for winning their awards. Champions Jonathan Tate and Ben Woodchick, along with Bernie's Tyson Stewart and Chester Pettibon, earned awards in their respective sports. Coach Tate's Chargers track and field team won district, area, and regional championships, as well as Charger freshman Beth Leachman won the state championship in the 1600 meters. Coach Woodchick's champion baseball team made history as they advanced to the state Final Four for the first time in program history, earning a bronze medal. Coach Stewart's Greyhound tennis team earned a silver medal in team tennis, and we mentioned the Gonzalez twins winning the state championship in boys doubles. And Coach Pettibon's Bernie softball team advanced to the regional finals and were 1 victory away from the state Final Four. 4 great coaches, 4 great seasons. Congratulations to these fine Bernie ISD coaches. Congratulations. Go Chargers, go Greyhounds. Thanks for being here tonight. Our next commendation, we stick with Champion High School. We honor their senior, Haley Goodwin, for earning a silver medal at the 2023 Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America National Competition in Denver. Let's give her a huge hand for winning a national medal. Haley competed in the category of Teach or Train and qualified for the national event thanks to her strong performance at the Texas State competition in the spring. She also took first place in the regional contest in February. Her goal is to become a family and consumer science teacher. Let's give her a hand for wanting to have that lofty goal. And here with her tonight is her teacher, Miss Haney. Let's give her a big round of applause for leading Haley to this national medal. Congratulations, Haley. Thank you very much for being here tonight. Our next commendation honors Currington Elementary, Fair Oaks Ranch Elementary, and Herf Elementary for being selected by the Flippin Group as Capturing Kids' Hearts National Showcase Schools. Let's give these schools a great hand for this tremendous accomplishment. Currington, Fair Oaks Ranch, and Herf are 3 of just 468 schools in the entire country to receive this recognition. National Showcase schools are chosen annually through a rigorous selection process that includes measuring key performance indicators, gathering data, and surveying staff and students. This is the 5th straight year that Fair Oaks Ranch has earned this award, and it's the 3rd year in a row for Currington, while Herf earned this award for the first time this year. Congratulations to these 3 schools for National Showcase School recognition. Congratulations. Thank you all very much for being here tonight. 3 great elementary schools in Boerne ISD. Our next commendation celebrates the Boerne ISD Business and Financial Services Department for receiving the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting from the Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada. Let's give them a round of applause for this international award. This is the 2nd straight year that Boerne ISD has earned this award. The certificate was awarded based on BISD's annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2022. The report has been judged by an impartial panel to meet the high standards of the program, which includes demonstrating a constrictive spirit of full disclosure. The Certificate of Achievement is the highest form of recognition in this area of government accounting and financial reporting. Congratulations once again to the BISD Business and Financial Services Department on another job well done. Congratulations. Thank you all for being here tonight. Our next commendation is a special recognition to thank the board members of the Boerne Education Foundation. Come on down, Boerne Education Foundation. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you to the Boerne Education Foundation for their commitment to support Boerne ISD students and teachers. Each year, they partner with the district and community to fund school supply gift cards for every Boerne ISD teacher, fund innovation grants, and campus projects. This past year, BEF poured over $400,000 into Boerne ISD schools. And just 2 weeks ago, over 700 Boerne ISD teachers received an Amazon gift card for $75 to purchase school supplies for their classroom and to help ensure that every child has the tools they need to learn. Let's give a big thank you to the Boerne Education Foundation. Thank you for all that you do, BEF. We greatly appreciate it. Up next, another organization that we greatly appreciate, a special recognition to thank board members of Sam's Kids. Let's give them a great hand for what Sam's Kids does. Sam's Kids stands for Students Achieving Maximum Success and is in honor of the late, great Sam Champion. The goal of Sam's Kids is to find and provide programs, people, and services that narrow the gap between a child's current academic performance and their full academic potential. The Sam's Kids board, directors, and volunteers work tirelessly to assist Boerne ISD students by providing school supplies, backpacks, and many other resources. They have been instrumental to the success of Boerne ISD students, and we thank them for their support. Let's give a huge hand to Sam's Kids for all they do for Boerne ISD. Thank you, Sam's Kids. We appreciate your support. Our next commendation is a special recognition to the amazing staff at Oak Hills Church for partnering with Boerne ISD to host our 2023 Convocation Ceremony. Let's hear it for Oak Hills Church and their great staff. Come on up. Minister Travis Eads and the Oak Hills leadership team worked with Bernie ISD administration to make history and hold convocation at their state-of-the-art facility. The Oak Hills technical team, who you see in front of you here, worked tirelessly to ensure that BISD staff production would look, sound, and feel like a world-class event. Thanks to the Oak Hills family and their spacious worship center, BISD was able to invite operations, transportation, and food service, as well as maintenance workers who were unable to attend in years past due to space limitations. The team at Oak Hills was absolutely incredible, and we cannot thank them enough for their partnership. And we look forward to hopefully going back in 2024 for convocation once again. Oak Hills Church, give them a huge hand for their generosity and their support of Bernie ISD. Thank you, Oak Hills Church. We greatly appreciate all that you do to support Bernie ISD. Our next commendation is a special recognition to the team of hardworking fine arts directors and coaches for assisting in the production of our convocation ceremony. Let's give a round of applause to these fine individuals. Led by champion theater director Israel Avalos, who wrote, directed, and starred in the show, BISD band, drill, and cheer directors and coaches played an integral role in the success of convocation. Thank you to our cheer coaches, Kimberly Skoke and Nadine Roberts, drill coaches Ashton Kidd and Rochelle Neiman, head band directors Jason Younts and Daniel Person, head choir directors Rachel Rabin and Michael Fain, and JROTC Colonel Michael Colvard. A special thank you to Jennifer Avalos for her hard work behind the scenes, as well as Bernie High School senior Bernardo Guerrero for assisting Dr. Price and the communications team for 2 days during and after the event. We would not have been able to do this without those you see ahead of us. So thank this fine group for all they did to make convocation a huge success. Thank you all for your support. We appreciate all the hard work that you do. We have 2 commendations left, and they both get to celebrate our fantastic law enforcement. Our next commendation celebrates Bernie ISD and the Kendall County Sheriff's Office for statewide awards at the 2023 Texas Association of School Resource Officers Safe Schools Conference. Up first, BISD Chief of Safety and Security Rick Goodrich was named the 2023 Tazro Administrator of the Year, while Voss Middle School Resource Officer and Kendall County Sheriff Deputy Jared Moore earned the Officer of the Year award. So they won 2 statewide awards. Bernie ISD has received regional and statewide recognition for hosting several law enforcement training events, as well as being recognized as an industry leader in school safety. Let's give a huge hand to these 2 statewide award winners, Rick Goodrich and Deputy Jared Moore. And if Deputy Moore and Chief Goodrich can stay up here real quick, we have a special recognition to Bernie ISD school resource officers, as well as new security guards and hall monitors. Come on down to that fine group of hardworking individuals. Bernie ISD added security guard and hall monitor positions to secondary campuses beginning with this school year. The new security features are in addition to all 12 campuses and Bernie Academy being assigned a school resource officer. The security guards and hall monitors are individuals who are mostly retired military members and are separate from campus SROs. The second straight school year that Bernie ISD, along with the Bernie and Fair Oaks Ranch Police Departments and the Kendall County Sheriff's Office, assigned each campus with a designated school resource officer. Let's hear it for our safety and security team for Bernie ISD. This is the safest room in Bernie at the moment. And if we could have everybody stay up here real quick, I want to hand the microphone over to our Chief of Safety and Security, Rick Goodrich.
Thank you, Brian. So if it looks like this is a lot of people, right, it's because it is. Just so everybody understands some of our numbers, right, we have 15 armed officers every day for our 13 campuses. So that's the largest law enforcement shift in the county, right, that's solely designed to protect our students and staff every day. On top of that, this year we've added now 11 new positions, right, or 11 total positions, almost doubled our number for our hall monitors and our security staff at our secondary schools, right. I think our principals, I think everyone that is on those campuses or on those campuses will tell you that it has made a difference, right. We've got an exceptional community here, and the expectation is that our children that are in our schools behave the same way that we hold ourselves accountable, right? And so those fine individuals that have just been added this year, they're here today, are doing a fantastic job. Some of the other folks that we'd like to recognize as well, many of you may know we just did a large-scale exercise where we simulated a disaster on campus and the response that went off of that. So we had about 100 first responders in total from combined agencies, both federal and state. So we have Landon Maroney from FBI, who was part of the evaluation team. And Landon's a part of the Safe Streets Task Force. That was the unit that was in charge of investigating the Uvalde tragedy, right? So we took advantage of those lessons learned, make sure we don't repeat those. We have all three chiefs here. We have our police chief, fire chief, and EMS chiefs. Without them, this would have not been possible. Like I said before, over 100 first responders participated in this event. This is not a small feat to put together. These things don't magically happen. A lot of hard work by those three individuals in particular. And Lieutenant Smith and Corporal Chavez are two that really designed that operation that day. They deserve a lot of credit. I'm going to pass the microphone now over to any of the chiefs if they have any comments, just talking about the special relationship we have here in this district to protect our kids.
Come on, I guess I'll talk. How you doing? Steve Pettis, Chief of Police for Bernie Police Department. I just want to give a round of applause to these guys and girls for all the hard work. We thought it was important to get this training done right before school started for obvious reasons, and we wanted to bring in expert people to come in and do the assessment so they could give us a true evaluation of where we're at and where we need to go forward the rest of the year. So safety for the school and the whole district is our top priority, and it will continue to be that way.
I'm Brian Webb. I'm the EMS administrator for Kendall County EMS. This has been a great project. It was enlightening to a lot of my new medics that are on the team. And we have a great working relationship with all our law enforcement, all our fire departments. We have 7 fire departments in this county. Most of them are volunteers, and they step up to the plate when we need them. Law enforcement does the same. We can't do without them. The thin blue line means something here.
Hi, I'm Manny Caceres, the new fire chief here as of March. And I just got to say what an honor it is to be a member of this community, to work here, and to be a part of, obviously, the collaborative efforts that you see here. It's truly second to none. Where I came from, we made a lot of efforts towards active threat and working with our law enforcement agencies, but coming over here, it was just, wow. The collaborative efforts that we have with Kendall County Sheriff's Department, the SROs, our police department, EMS, and everybody in between that's helped. Obviously, we have federal agents that are helping, state agents, and it's just been such a wonderful experience to know that we're putting this much effort into the safety of the children of this community, and it's an honor.
Let's give one more big hand to our law enforcement partners. Thank you all very much for your service. And Mr. President, that concludes commendations this evening, and I will yield the floor back to you, sir.
My registration's expired. I'm a little nervous right now with all them going to the parking lot. Yeah. Pay no attention to the black F-250 at the back.
All right. Thank you, Brian, for leading that. I appreciate it very much. Next item on our agenda is consider action, if any, regarding items discussed in closed session. I believe we do have a motion tonight.
I move that the board approves and directs Superintendent Thomas Price to proceed regarding the real property as discussed in closed session.
I have a motion. I have a second. Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Motion carries. Thank you. All right. Visitor comments and testimonials. We do have some speakers that have signed up tonight. Just a little bit of procedural information ahead of time. So the board encourages comments about the district from citizens of the district or from district employees. Anyone wishing to speak, either as an individual or as a representative of a group, may do so at this time. The board asks that each participant's comments pertain to public education and be no longer than 3 minutes. The overall time limit for comments is 30 minutes. Remember that the board may not discuss or act upon any issues that are not posted on our agenda, and if an issue mentioned is listed on tonight's agenda, the board will defer discussion of the issue until the appropriate time during the meeting. The board encourages the public to discuss concerns with an appropriate administrator who has the authority to address the concerns, and concerns should be expressed as soon as possible to allow early resolution at the lowest possible administrative level. Finally, please be aware that the rules of decorum will be enforced during the public comment section and throughout the meeting. Disruptive behavior is not tolerated, and those who choose to engage in disruptive behavior may be asked to leave. Each participant is legally responsible for the content and consequences of his or her own statements. So our first speaker tonight is Christina Mitchell. Ms. Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Fryer, Dr. Tidwell, Ms. Schmidt, Mr. Wilson, Ms. Davila, and Dr. Price. My name's Christina Mitchell, and I am the oldest grandchild of George and Bedelia Mitchell. I'm here in support of the naming of the new elementary school after my grandfather, George Mitchell. I'm here with several members of my family and other members of this community. In deciding what I was going to say tonight and what I was going to speak to y'all about, I started thinking of everything and how my grandparents did and how much Bernie has changed. My grandparents moved here in 1955, and we submitted a dossier to each of you, and I thank you in advance for reviewing that. My grandparents were people in this community that made Bernie what it is today. We heard law enforcement up here, some of these law enforcement that I happen to know, and talked about what Bernie is. And it was because of my grandparents. When we started this project, on behalf of my mother started it, actually Eva Mitchell, we started hearing people saying, who is George Mitchell? And I submitted to you all of the organizations that he was a part of. Well, when my grandparents moved here, Bernie was a sleepy town, right? And it's grown a lot. Bernie at that time was everybody knew your family, they knew your cousins, they knew your aunts, your uncles, they even knew all your particular family drama. Bernie has grown a lot since then. But my grandfather was one of those people who started the foundation from which you see Bernie today. He was a family man. He came here to start a business. And he worked in different organizations, all while running that business and having a family of 5 children. And when I started thinking about that, I thought, oh my God, that's a lot. One of the articles that we submitted to y'all talked about him being a doer, that whenever something needed to be done in Bernie, he was one of the first people to raise his hand. The civic organizations that he belonged to were very important to him. It was important to my grandfather to lay a good foundation for his family and to embed himself in this community and to make Bernie what it is today. I can remember as a child him working at the Lions Club booth when it was at the fairgrounds. And the Lions Club shows, they sold meat shish kebabs, and still thinking about those makes my mouth water today. But I remember as a small child being at the Lions Club booth while my grandfather was working. Service to this community is something that my grandmother and my grandfather instilled in us as young children. I am a Bernie graduate. I'm sorry. I'm a Bernie graduate of 1984, but I was also a member of Sam's Kids. And while it would be an honor for us, for you to name the school after my father, but I would strongly encourage you and tell you that it would be an honor for this community and this school board to stand up and say, we honor you, Mr. Mitchell. One of the things I want to point is that in researching my grandfather, I came across this book called The Images of Bernie. And in this book is my grandparents and Patrick Heath and Sam Champion. My grandfather's in this book with them, and they are recognized in Bernie. I thank you for your time and your attention.
Thank you, Mrs. Mitchell. I'm going to allow the next speakers to go on for 4 minutes just because we're going to do that tonight. So the next speaker is Nicole Haygood.
Good evening, Dr. Price, President Fryer, board members. I'm a former Marine, retired from federal service, currently serving on the Council for Touchstone Community Church and as the Youth GSA Liaison for PFLAG Bernie. I come to you tonight to discuss the new school club rule that a student must have a parent's signature in order to participate in a student-led club. This rule will have negative consequences for many students. I speak not only of the GSA, but of all clubs. There are students who are in homes where parents do not have their children's best interests in mind. Let's face it, those who are downright abusive. These parents would not want their students to participate in any club. These clubs are important because they give this child a safe space. For children in abusive homes, a school club is one more place they can be free to be themselves without fear. By having this new rule, you, Bernie ISD, are further isolating these children. They need you the most. I ask you, are these vulnerable children less important to Bernie ISD than the privileged child? I encourage you to revisit this policy and remove the parental permission to participate in student clubs.
Thank you, Mrs. Haygood. Our next speaker is Jerry Lamping. Mr. Lamping?
President Fryer, fellow board members, Dr. Price, congratulations on the start of a great 23-24 year. Thank you. I want to thank you for the support you've given to the retired teachers of Kendall County. In a few days, some of us are going to get a pretty nice supplemental check. Sorry, Richard, you're too young for that, but we got some more work to do, though. part of your priorities and our priorities was for a cost of living adjustment, and that is going to be up to the state voters in November. So I know you guys can't support it, but I can. Vote for Prop 9 in November. So we still have some work to do, but you're going to have a resolution tonight for your legislative priorities for trying to get a basic allotment increase. And the retired teachers really support that, because we know if you do get that, you're going to give that some of that money off to present teachers, which they need. Also, 45 years ago, a teacher in this community, Viola Wilson, organized the Bernie Retired Teachers Association, which became the Kendall County Retired Teachers. So there's a lot of retired teachers that sure would like to see an elementary school named in her honor. And finally, I've been in this community 44 years. I have 6 children that went through the grades, middle school and high schools. We support small schools. I know we have a big attendance gain, and my grandchildren too. They're not here in this community, but they're in other communities, other districts in Texas that has small high schools. So we really think that it's time to start looking for another high school for this area. We want to keep our schools small, benefit of our students. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lamping. And our final speaker this evening is Maxie Zinsmeister. Mr. Zinsmeister?
Good evening, BISD trustees and Dr. Price. I'm sure it is too late to request changes to your upcoming budget and subsequent establishing in the property tax rate for 2023, but hopefully we have to digest what I am requesting for next year. I know that school security was a high priority item in this last state of Texas legislative session. I don't know how much money was provided to enhance security in BISD, but there must be some, as I saw that we have hired 2 security guards to be deployed on our campuses, and obviously I saw a lot of other stuff related to security. So good job on that. What I'm here to talk about is how we will be providing security in the future. As we know, security is now provided by the Kendall County Sheriff's Office, the City of Bernie Police Department, and the Fair Oaks Police Department, which is a good thing. We need true professionals looking out for these kids. We don't need BISD getting in the business of creating their own police department, as we saw how that worked out in New Valley. My son attended BISD when SROs were just starting to be placed on campuses. I saw how the SROs interacted with the kids, and it was pretty obvious these officers would take a bullet for these kids. These are the people we need providing protection for our kids. The only issue I have with this arrangement is who is bearing the cost. My son attended Fair Oaks Elementary School. We live in the county, so we paid nothing towards the salaries of the SROs being provided by Fair Oaks Police Department. Likewise, he attended Bernie Middle School South. We paid nothing towards the salaries of the Bernie Police Department officers serving as SROs. We have kids that live in Comal, Bear, and Kirk counties attending Kendall County-based school districts. Other than the few in Bear and Comal County that may live within the city limits of Fair Oaks, how much are they contributing to the security of our campuses? We have an area of Kendall County that lies in Blanco Independent School District, and these people pay property taxes to this school district. Is it fair that they be paying for security in BISD schools via the Kendall County property taxes they are paying? Since these kids attend Blanco schools, they should be paying for security in Blanco ISD where their kids attend. The bottom line is our school districts in Kendall County span different law enforcement agencies which are funded through different taxing authorities. The only logical way to pay for security at our schools is to have school districts pick up more of the tabs such that all of the people with children attending these schools will help fund the protection of these kids. Finally, from attending the Kendall County Commissioner's Court last week, I learned of additional funding that is available that the court approved. This is called the Child Safety Fund. It is collected as part of vehicle registration and is used to primarily fund school crossing guards, with the remaining going to child safety. There was nobody from the board or the school district at this meeting to speak about this fund. It could have been increased from $1 to $1.50. There was nobody there to provide evidence and speak to it. We need to be involved. We need to make sure that we understand what these funds are being used for and carry forward. So, appreciate your time, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Zinsmeister. Sorry about that. I couldn't get my mic to activate. Thank you to all the speakers. We appreciate your time and attention this evening. The next item on the agenda is our consent agenda. Are there any items that anyone needs to discuss or wants to pull out? And if not, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. Have a motion to approve the consent agenda? And a second? No further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. We're good. We're good. We are going to move on to item number 8 for governance. Board member reports. First item is legislative priorities. So, Mr. Senna, why don't we start with you?
That'd be great. Thanks, Mr. Fryer. Last August, at our meeting last August, the board approved legislative priorities for the 88th session of the Texas legislature that started in January and ended prior to Memorial Day. Of our 5 legislative priorities, they included sustainable property tax relief, reforming House Bill 4545, fully funding the new instructional facilities allotment, which gives a certain allotment when you open up a new school, as we will be next school year, providing a cost of living adjustment for retired educators, and lastly, increasing the basic allotment to assist in the recruitment and retention of high-quality teachers. We are very pleased that progress has been made on priorities 1 through 4, yet more work needs to be done. You heard one of our speakers mention that Prop 9, cost of living adjustment for retired educators, is on the ballot in November and has to be approved by the voters for that to go into effect. And Proposition 4 is a homestead exemption increase from $40,000 up to $100,000, which would enact a component of the property tax relief. So 2 of our 5 legislative priorities have been enacted and signed into law. Another 2 are awaiting voter approval. Yet there's a 5th one that we're going to address, and we wanted to prepare legislative priorities for what's expected to be a special session called in October regarding school finance, education savings accounts, another word for vouchers, teacher compensation, a whole bunch of things put in together. So Garrett is going to walk us through. Do you have it in front of you? Yeah, Garrett's going to walk us through our first priority. We're going to ask the board to approve 2 priorities tonight.
Okay. Yeah, so number 1 is increase the basic allotment to keep pace with inflation. The rate of inflation has increased by 17.2% since the last time the basic allotment was increased in 2019. The Texas Constitution allows for spending increases to meet the combined rate of inflation and population growth. But since 2019, the state has only funded student enrollment growth. Due to responsible management of the state's finances, Texas has experienced a time of growth and prosperity, resulting in a large surplus of state funds. Available money remains prior to the state reaching its constitutional spending limit, in addition to the $4 billion available for K-12 public education, but not formally appropriated in the approved 2023 to 24 budget. We call on the legislature to increase the basic allotment by a respectable amount and provide the funding necessary for the ever-increasing costs of meeting the needs of Texas students.
Thank you, Garrett. Now, if the basic allotment were to be increased in the special session, that would apply to the current fiscal year. And our second priority is titled An Honorable Profession. Teaching is an honorable profession worthy of improved compensation. Increasing the basic allotment would provide additional money to be spent primarily on teacher pay as well as other school employees. Texas teachers currently earn an average of $7,000 less than the national average. As Texans, we don't believe that we are average, let alone below average. Texas public school teachers are on the front lines of educating over 5.4 million Texas children and are largely responsible for the significant progress in our state's graduation rates and college, career, or military readiness. And I might add that we have the highest four-year graduation rate of any major state in the United States. I believe we're third or fourth in the nation. Our four-year graduation rate for subpopulations, Hispanic students, African Americans, I believe is second in the nation out of 50 states. And all this progress has occurred in the last 15 years. The Teacher Vacancy Task Force appointed by Governor Abbott issued recommendations for the Texas legislature, but they were not addressed in the regular session. So we are asking and encouraging the Texas legislature to increase the basic allotment and teacher pay in the expected forthcoming October 2023 special session of the Texas legislature and to implement the recommendations made by the Teacher Vacancy Task Force. So our goal is, assuming the board approves this, we will hit the road and get to Austin and knock on doors and talk to a lot of legislators. There's a number of people in this room that joined us when we visited the legislature in February 23rd. I believe we had 4 or 5 of our board members, former board members. Jerry was there, Richard was there, Maxie was there. We met with 70 legislators, and I'd like to think it helped. So if you don't ask, you don't get. So that's the background on this. I don't know if you guys have any questions, but we certainly would like a motion to approve the legislative priorities for the forthcoming special session.
The only thing I'll say, which I say every time that this comes up, because we're using words like increase of allotment and increase of funding, for us as a Robin Hood district, this is more of your tax dollars that we get to keep in our community versus sending it to Austin. So it's not like we're going to get a huge windfall of new revenue. And in fact, another thing I like to repeat often on our M&O tax rate, that's as low as legally we're allowed to go. Because if we went lower than that, Austin wouldn't be able to get $10 million more a year from us in Robin Hood. So it's a great thing that they're passing, and it lets more of our community's dollars stay here to help our teachers in our school district.
Well said, Joe.
Yep.
Rich, thank you, and Garrett for your work on that. I really appreciate it. Any other questions or comments on the legislative priorities? I do think that we traditionally have passed a resolution or passed a motion to support these and approve these, so I would entertain a motion to that effect.
Sure, I motion to approve the 2 legislative priorities shared today.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Rich, do you have any other board member reports, committees?
No, not tonight.
Okay, we'll stop over to Joe.
There we go. Didn't have a formal meeting on safety and security or technology. Did just want to point out, and when Ms. mentioned earlier, the exercise, the joint exercise that we did at Middle School South / Kendall. You know, if you've never been a part of something like that or never had to design one and put one on, it's an incredible amount of work, and what they did was top notch. It's really hard to explain how much goes into setting something up like that and how complicated it is. The other thing I'd like to point out, a whole lot of the folks, particularly our first responders that were participating, they weren't even getting paid to be there, particularly on the fire department side, especially if they're volunteers to begin with. So I talked to a number of folks, just like y'all, know a lot of these folks in the community. They took days off of work to be able to go to that training. So it's just, the last thing I'll mention on it is, and this is through, DPS has, for the Texas DPS, has really been focused, particularly in the last year, trying to get schools to do security more collaboratively with their community, to integrate other agencies. And what we've been doing here for a year, and at least a year, and that exercise that we just recently did, that's kind of their dream scenario, which they're trying to get people to do. And we already do that. Now, that's not any guarantee of anything, but I can tell you every single person, I talk with all of them, I'm sure y'all do too, every single person we have from Rick on down, it's not just a job for them. It's a calling. And I'm just very, very impressed, and I think we're very blessed to have the people we have, particularly, I'm glad all the SROs, I know I'm going on a little bit here, but we had all the SROs up tonight. It's, you know, an SRO is a very particular type of law enforcement officer. It's not just, I don't know if there's such thing as an average cop, but it's not your average police officer when you have to deal with kids, and you have to actually care about kids if you want to do that job well. And our SROs, all of them, fit that bill. I mean, they're unicorns to be able to find people like that, and we've got them at every one of our schools. So I just can't say enough about the job they're doing. Really proud of it and proud to be a part of it. So thank you, guys.
Thank you, Joe. That wraps up your committees. Christy?
So I do not have an official report for program evaluation, whole child, or communications, but as the PTO representative, I just wanted to thank Yvette Raina for partnering with us at Convocation. We were able to send 2 PTO leaders from each campus to attend Convocation for the first time. They were very grateful of that opportunity, and they also were able to provide snacks as post-game snacks, as you will, for the staff and students and bus drivers and everyone as they left Convocation. So.
Great. Jessica?
Gearing for their 3rd annual Topgolf tournament on September 15th, and there are teams, and I'm assuming sponsorship and other ways to get available. I've attended. It's been great. It's wonderful. It's a fun fundraiser, and as BEF helps every student, every school, and every teacher and staff member. So it's a great organization to support. Contact Yvette Raina.
All right. That was it for you then, too? Okay. Mr. Wilson?
Sure. Yeah, we had a finance committee meeting this last Wednesday, and we went over the unaudited results of the 2022-2023 budget. The big news there was that we ended the year with a sizable surplus, which a lot of that was due to just higher interest rates that we're making on our funds in the general fund. And so as interest rates and short-term interest rates are higher, and we're able to earn over 5% on those in our accounts, then that turns into a nice little windfall for the district. We also talked about the outcome of certified values. And concerning debt management, we talked about being able to pay off the 2022 and 2014 bonds early, or at least parts of them, and that was encouraging. I've got the numbers here. The 2022 bonds, we had about nearly $12 million in savings from being able to defease those early, and then in the 2014 bonds, we had another nearly about $750,000 there, so a little over $12 million total. So that's really encouraging. That saves us a lot of money over the next 10, 20 years by paying those off. We talked about the quarterly investment report. Again, we're making high rate of interest on our funds, so that's really nice. So that's pretty well summed it up.
Thank you. Any other comments on board member reports?
Actually, I had a question. Wes probably knows it for later, but I know we tend to keep kind of a rolling count over the last 6-8 years, how much we've saved by paying off those bonds early. So I don't know if you have that. We can hear about it later. But, well, from that look, at the next board meeting, we'll hear about how much we saved over the last 6 or 8 years. But I just like getting that number out, because I always forget what it is, because it's so much bigger than I would imagine. I forget it's in the many, many tens of millions. So I'll stop talking about it so you don't have to answer this later, Wes.
I just had it. There we go. I don't know going back 6 to 8 years. I know that if you just include the 2020 refunding that we did right when I got here, that was really more Miss Grill than it was me. That was somewhere between 20 and 30 million savings just by itself, and since then with this transaction we're getting up close to 50. I'll put those numbers here.
Need to go to that. I think that's plenty. Don't want to give extra work, but I think to me, like, the numbers are big enough and they're getting there that that's basically a bond issue that we've saved in paying off bonds early and by being financially responsible. So I mean, another way to think about it is we've been able to not have a bond or put off bonds longer than we otherwise could have, and be respectful to our taxpayers by being very financially conservative. So just appreciate that.
And in addition to that, Joe, of the 17 fast growth school districts in the Austin, San Antonio metropolitan areas, we have the lowest interest and sinking tax rate. So we're able to manage our growth at a lower tax rate than any other fast growth district.
Good comments, great comments. All right, we will move on to the selection of a TASB school board delegate and alternate delegate. So at the end of September, we have the TASB TASA convention in Dallas, I believe, this year. And the legislative convention or assembly will be held. And so we need to select a delegate and an alternate delegate to attend that assembly. Are there any volunteers?
Well, Garrett and I are on the Legislative Advocacy Committee. I would be happy to volunteer if you don't want to do it, but if you don't want to do it, you'd be an awesome alternate or vice versa. It's on a Saturday. It's when we go to Dallas, yeah. Wherever it is this year. Where is it going to be this year? Yeah, but
And I don't mind doing it either way. It's a good experience.
Accepting that responsibility as the first year. My alternate.
Wow, okay, we have to have a motion. So never before in my 9 years of being here have we had more people volunteer for this position.
Maybe we should ask for 2 spots.
I don't think we want 2 spots. So, Chrissy, it sounds like you volunteered to be our delegate, and so we would need an alternate?
She voluntold, I think.
Voluntold, okay. I would love a motion. Thank you.
Delegate for the TASB school board thing. Assembly, pardon me. And for Garrett as our alternate.
Good.
Have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, thank you, Christy and Garrett. Next item is consider endorsement of a candidate for the 2023 Texas Association of School Boards Board of Directors. Rich, you're probably the one that's most familiar with this, and we've had a lot of conversations about Belinda.
Each of the 20 regions nominates folks, and the large districts automatically get a representative. That's North Side and Northeast. And then the rest of the districts elect one person. And our person for the last number of years has been Relinda Schmidt out of Kerrville, and she is an extremely knowledgeable individual. You know, she reaches out a lot to different folks in the region. I think she's done a great job. She's also in line within 2 years to be the president of TASB, which would be the whole state. And I think it would be great to have a Hill Country person be in a position like that. So I would strongly recommend, I would move that we endorse Belinda Schmidt to fill the Region 20 position. Yeah.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Board of Directors? I thought I remembered that.
Yeah, that's where they vote for, the leadership.
Okay.
Yeah.
Correct. All right. No further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Motion carries. Next item is, as everyone's aware, Dr. Price has announced his retirement, and so we are fast approaching the time where we need to begin a succession search. And so when we hired Dr. Price, we utilized we interviewed a couple of search services, ultimately made the decision at that point in time to use the Texas Association of School Board, because every school district in the state of Texas is a member of that organization, and so they know the ins and outs of all of the superintendents and certainly can be advocates for us. I think that they did a great job. We firmly believe in helping us select Dr. Price, and Certainly entertain a motion to officially hire them for a new search. Okay, I have a motion and a second to hire TASB Executive Search Service as the search firm. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you very much. We'll move on to reports, and Dr. Price, Superintendent report is next.
Had a super opening. Really want to commend our principals in the back. Look away from their emails and just let us thank you for a minute, because it was really a smooth one. After every year we've had a challenge. This year our challenge was heat. And I want to also commend our transportation. Elaine helped tremendously. Mark, John Ramirez, we had 6 routes, because we had some of our new buses that have air have already broken. We were without some air, and so we were able to borrow buses. One school district wanted to remain anonymous. Another school district, Hayes, was fine with us using their name. I think it's a great example of cooperation, and we really need it at this point. But it's whether it's the principals or admin pulling together, and then our teachers did such a super job of making whether you're high school and just coming in as a 9th grader, or seniors, or our little babies come in, making them feel welcome, and saw a few tears the first day, but more hugs and more smiles than tears. So it was a good day to be in Bernie. Our numbers are up, not quite as many students as we thought we'd have at this point, but I see that we have 30 just waiting to enroll, and we're going to have more as the year rolls on. I also want to report out that we are having our first Citizens Academy, and the deadline for applying is rapidly approaching the first part of September. At this point in time, we have over 60 applicants. We're going to try to narrow that down to a field to about 25 workable. We want to share the great things that are going on, but also basically how the sausage is made. A lot of times we do a super job of pretending to be small, pretending to make this look very easy. But the reality is we are the largest employer in the area by far. We work with a budget of over $100 million a year. We have 1,400 employees, 11,000 students, and 20,000 parents that we touch their lives every single day. And if you just look on a daily basis, we run 13 restaurants. We travel. We talked about transportation. We do 6,000 miles a day in transportation. So we want to share how we do it. And I think overall we do a pretty great job, and a lot of that goes back to just having wonderful staff and a wonderful community supporting us. Also, bonds going well. If you look down the road, Old Central Office is well on its way. We feel like, I think the timeline for that is in the spring, late spring. That should be finished. That will house our academy students, because we've outgrown the space over here with the academy and the DEAP. Academy students, along with our over 18 program. And the other thing that we had discussed is we want to make a connection with either Alamo colleges or another college about bringing in some training for students who maybe do not go off to college. We have this misconception that every one of our students are going to go to University of Texas A&M or Yale, and the reality is we have a good chunk of our students, like the rest of the state, who graduate and they try to find a job in the community, but there's no readily accessible programs like air conditioning repair, technology repair. We want to work with those certification programs to bring that into that building, and then spread it out to other programs throughout that we may charge a fee. And you go to a lot of school districts and you see art classes, calligraphy classes, pottery, all kinds of those types of classes being offered by our staff who make a few extra dollars, but also we want to get our community into our schools. They help pay for them. We want to make sure that they're used by the community. So that's a kickoff down there. We were on our new AstroTurf for Stan. New AstroTurf today, doing great as both of our football teams get ready to, one goes off to Laredo and one goes off to Corpus, and we expect some good things Friday. Elementary number 8, which are going to address tonight, is coming along. We're getting ready within the next week, I believe, to put steel up, and so we're on schedule to open that and have that finished in late July, just in time for students in August. And our other projects are coming along. The addition at Bernie High School is well on its way. We got clearance to start on the addition at Champion High School, and we're going to be getting ready for the Aquatics Learning Center within the next couple of weeks also. So Mark and his group are doing a wonderful job. And my final little report, we saw our SROs today and the support we have. I've gone to several different superintendent meetings lately, and the new bill that requires there to be a SRO or somebody with a weapon at every single campus, we as a community should be very proud of our community for stepping up. That's something we haven't had to worry about for the past 2 years. We've had our communities, whether that's Fair Oaks, the Kendall County, or Bernie Police Department, move forward, give us what we needed as far as support, and that's not happening everywhere. And I say this a lot of times about some of the great things that are happening in our schools. We just assume it's happening well everywhere. I've spoken to small school districts with two or three campuses, and they can't find the support we have, and the large districts are nowhere near that, and they're struggling with that. So we're in a great place to live and a great place to be, and a good community that supports us. And that is all my reports.
Is this thing on? There it goes. Any questions for Dr. Price?
Just a couple of comments, Dr. Price, that I think there was an article in the Express News, not this past Sunday, but the previous Sunday, about citing what a lot of districts were struggling to do with meeting the new state law to have an SRO or an armed presence in each campus. And it did cite that Bernie was ahead of the game. We did this a year ago, and we started our dramatic improvement about 4 or 5 years ago when we went from 4 SROs to 7 SROs, last year all the way to 12. And I think Brian Benway pointed it out very accurately in the Express News, the $15,000 per campus that the state funded in no way comes close to paying for an SRO. But that incremental money that we did receive went towards paying for all the new security we offered, which is another layer. So I think, Dr. Price, I think you and the administration did a very good job improving our security beyond what it already was. So I appreciate that. And the other thing I noticed also from the Express News this past Sunday, it's unfortunately it was extremely hot last week. It's not going to be that much better this week. It's going to be a cold front tomorrow. It's only going to be 90. But I was reading that Northside only has 45% of their buses are air conditioned, and we're at 90%. So thanks to the voters of Bernie for approving the bond in 22, which allowed us to buy 15 or 16 new buses, all with air conditioning. And also kudos to John. Where's John Ramirez? He's back there in the back row. And Henry Acosta, because you both made a real pitch for buses and talking about the importance of air conditioning on the buses, that it was great not only for the kids, but the drivers, and we're trying to attract drivers. So it was great that the people see that in Bernie we have air-conditioned buses. So good job on that.
And I'll just add to that, a thanks to all of our mechs, because may not sound like much, but adding an air conditioning onto a bus significantly increases the amount of maintenance that one vehicle needs, and you add that across the fleet. And so one of the reasons we keep doing what we do is, we have the drivers, we have the administration, but everything down just taking care of the vehicles and making sure that all the preventive maintenance done, the secondary maintenance and all that. So we couldn't do any of that without those guys. And air conditioning helps everybody, but it also comes with a price, not just what it costs to buy it, but what it costs to maintain it. And we didn't magically sprout a whole bunch of new techs to take care of the buses. So really appreciate their work to try to keep them going. Especially, it has to be heartbreaking when we get some brand new ones, and then 3 weeks later, brand new ones that we got, some things aren't working and they have to fix them. So just very much appreciate their effort keeping everything on the road.
Again, great comments, great comments. Dr. Price, I just wanted to talk about the Citizens Leadership Academy, Community Leadership Academy. I'm really excited that we had so many people that have signed up to do that. And there was a question earlier, what's the purpose of that? What is the reasoning that we're wanting to do that? And I think ultimately it's important. The people that are going to go through those sessions, those 5 or 6 sessions, become ambassadors to the community. So not only is it educational, that you really see how the sausage is made, use your term, but you can address misconceptions in the community. You can share with people the things that are going right, and it certainly gives us extra ears on the ground in the community if something is not going right, that will, the people that are able to attend that will, obviously have closer contact with, the administration and the board. So really excited. I know that we can't take it more than 25 people because you lose the ability to coordinate the event. So it's going to be tough to, I think, get it down to that. But hopefully there's a good understanding that, we're going to continue to do this and we continue to see that same type of or same level of interest. So thank you for coordinating that. And I think actually, Yvette, I think you're going to be kind of coordinating that. So thank you. Any other comments, questions? Okay, we'll move on to the next item is instruction under our reports. So Ms. Flores, talk to us about STAR data.
Good evening, Mr. President, Dr. Price, and esteemed members of the board. It's a privilege to share with you tonight our achievements and progress our students have made under the STAR assessments. What I will share with you this evening also ties directly to our district scorecard under student success. As you know, the STAR is a crucial tool that enables us to assess our students' academic progress and readiness for their next educational steps. So these standardized tests, assessments, cover a range of subjects and are aligned with the state's educational standards. There were substantial changes from STAR 2022 to the new redesigned STAR administered to our students in 2023. Comparing two tests is usually, that are so vastly different is usually not appropriate. There were significant changes in the level of rigor and also in the actual design of the test. For example, no more of 75% of the questions can be multiple choice. Therefore, there were new item types that our students were not used to. Drag and drop, inline text, multi-part, multi-select, short and extended constructed responses. That was a major change for our students. There was also the writing component was added into our reading and language arts assessments. The writing test was no longer a standalone test, and so it was incorporated into our reading exams. And also the incorporation of cross-curricular passages in reading language arts. So in reading language arts, there were passages relating to the subject of science or social studies. So again, major difference for our students. So even though there were many changes to the test, there was no change made to how STAR performance is measured. The scores are categorized on a scale from did not meet grade level to master's grade level, indicating varying levels of performance and understanding. And I have here a chart illustrating that. STAR performance is the average of all tests, approaches, meets, and masters percentages combined. So to further illustrate this, in this example, there are 10 figures. If each of these figures represent 10 students, then there are a total of 100 students on this table. The number of students in approaches grade level and above, if you were to count, would be 70. Because you count the 4 in approaches, the 2 in meets, and the 1 in masters. So that was 7 times 10 would be 70. So the component score For approaches grade level or above would be a 70. For meets grade level, it would be 30. You count the 2 in the meets category and the 1 in the masters. And for masters, that would be a 10. So when you average those 3 scores together, you get what's called the component score for STAR performance. And I show this to you because all of my slides coming up next feature that for each of the tests in each of our subpopulation. So again, these scores have not been scaled yet. So the state does take this percentage, the component score, and then later scales it up to an A through F rating. Okay, so let's start with STAR math, grades 3 through 5. So if you first look at 3rd grade, that green bar with a 64, that is all of our students. That is English and Spanish, tests combined. So 64 is the percentage or the component score of all of our passing performance levels. The purple would be our economically disadvantaged. The gray would be our emerging bilingual. And the gold color would be our special education students. And down below, I also have a grid of how many students per grade level per subpopulation. Okay. Next, we have math, 6th grade through Algebra 1. I'm very proud of our Algebra 1 scores. A lot of work has been put into the staffing and, of course, the curriculum here for Algebra 1. So again, notable growth, as you can tell, from 6 to Algebra 1. So if you were to compare our results to last year, 2022, and also to the region and the state, Boerne ISD was 21% above the region and 18% above the state when it comes to the component scores. So considering, again, that it was a very different test, different levels of rigor, different item types, totally different design for our students, we did remarkably well. Now for reading language arts, again, grades 3 through 5, we do have students that test in English and Spanish. So again, those are our percentages, or component scores for each grade level. And again, for 6th grade through English 2, our 8th grade students did very, very well this year. And again, a comparison with how we did this year to last year to Region 20 and the state. We are 18% above the region and 17% above the state in reading language arts. We test 3 subject areas in science, 5th grade, 8th grade, and biology. Our biology students, our end of course, did very, very well, as you can see. And compared to last year and compared to the region and the state, we were 20% above the region and 20% above the state when it comes to science. For social studies, 8th grade and U.S. history, vastly different tests. So again, our U.S. history and of course students, our 11th graders, did remarkably well. And again, compared to last year, the region and the state, we are 18% above the region and 17% above the state when it comes to U.S. history, social studies. So what does this all mean? When you combine all the tests and all the grade levels together, you can see that we did slightly better in reading language arts this year. We did slightly better in math. We had a slight decrease in science, and we had an increase in social studies. So when you take all of those passing levels and average them together, we end up with a 66 component score for STAR, which compared to last year was the same. And that was our internal goal, was just to maintain, because we knew this test was going to be different. And we didn't know really what to expect, so we were just hoping to maintain. So that 66 will then get scaled to a number grade that aligns with A through F. So it's good news. The next thing I wanted to share with you this evening is our CCMR, which is our College Career and Military Readiness. What you have here is a 6-year historical data for our district. As you can see, from 2022 to 2023, we had a 15% increase and graduating students who are college and career and military ready, which is a great achievement. Now remember, CCMR does lag a year, so that 23 column, that data is from our class of 22. This next chart also illustrates how each of our high schools contributes to that overall percentage.
What is the rationale for CCMR to lag a year when we already know the number?
So it takes the state a year to accumulate all the data from College Board and all the multiple entities that they need to get the data for to come to this number. It does take some time, unfortunately. So our final now these are preliminary, so our final accountability results will be released from TA on September the 26th. Any questions?
Thought you were going to give us the score at the end.
Keeping us in suspense because it's right
I know,
there.
it's on the bubble. You know, when you report on these kind of numbers, Larissa, I just continue to think about the efforts that our principals and our administrators and our teachers put into each and every student in the district. And the old adage of, if it's not measured, it is not done, clearly shows you're measuring, we're reporting, and we have great teachers touching our students.
Absolutely, and we truly believe in data-driven instruction, and our principals exhibit that every single day. And when I visit PLCs, it is quite evident. So I applaud them for all of their hard work, because this would not happen without them.
Any other questions, Ms. Flores?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Move on to action items. Dr. O'Hare. First item is going to be consider BISD facilities name.
Thank you. Good evening, President Fryer, esteemed members of the board, Dr. Price. I'm here to speak with you this evening about naming of BISD facilities. So in accordance with BISD board policy CW local, we formed a facilities naming committee early in July. Recommendations for campus names were solicited from our community from July 18th to July 25th. We received a total of 315 community recommendations from the BISD community in that week. Our committee met again on the 31st of July to review and discuss community responses, and the committee came up with 3 names to recommend to the Board of Trustees. Those names were Viola Wilson Elementary, George C. Mitchell Elementary, and Balcones Creek Elementary. In your recent board updates, you've been provided additional information about those 3 names, as well as some selected community comments that were provided to us. And so what we'd like for you guys to do this evening is to discuss those options and see if you can come to a consensus about which name to choose for the school. That's the charge of the committee in our board policy, is to bring you guys 3 recommendations. It's kind of unique. And this one, instead of just bringing you 1, we bring you 3.
Always a fun process to go through. You learn about community members that sometimes you've heard of and sometimes you haven't, or locations. So I kind of open it up to the board, see if there's any start of discussion.
Yeah, I mean, I put a lot of thought into this. In fact, I've got 3 pages of notes. So if it's okay with you, I'm just going to share my notes that I've got. Okay. I wanted to start off by thanking the committee for its hard work and diligence. I think you proposed 3 good options. One's geographical landmark, and 2 that honor deceased members of our community. I also appreciate the passion displayed on the Facebook postings that were established to create support for each of the recommended names. But what impressed me the most was the respect shown by advocates for a specific name towards the other name that they didn't necessarily prefer. And I really thought that was awesome, because so often on these Facebook forum sites, you see anger and vitriol, and it's just nasty. And that's not what I read. And to me, that's what Bernie, one of the things that makes this a great town. So I want to applaud those folks for doing that. I've got thoughts on the different approach between a geographical name versus honoring individuals who've displayed a strong commitment to our schools and our community. Some of our elementary schools have geographical names like Fair Oaks Ranch or Kendall or Cibolo Creek. Others have been named, in honor of people. Now, naming a school based on geography, to me, is a safer approach because there's a lot of really worthy people that we could honor with naming a school. I mean, a lot. There's a lot of great people in this town. And we were given two options, but there's more than that. So naming it after a geographical landmark is a safe thing to do, but it kind of reminds me of that phrase, a ship in a harbor is safe, but that is not what ships are built for. So my heart tends to support the naming of schools for individuals whose lives are exemplary in terms of their service to others. So as I said, we do have two great recommendations, and I'll share thoughts on each one because I'd be comfortable either way. Mrs. Wilson was clearly a beloved and respected teacher for over 40 years in Bernie. She taught in both one-room schoolhouses, which were common in Bernie in the first half of the 20th century, as well as larger school buildings that were built after the consolidation of schools began in the 1940s. In many of the statements of support from Mrs. Wilson, you got a sense of her commitment and passion for educating her students. Her engagement with those she taught did not end at the end of the school year, but continued on for many years. And to me, that's a sign of a remarkable educator. Of the 5 BISD schools named for individuals, one's for a businessman and community leader, Henry Fabra. One is for a Bernie ISD alumnus who died serving in our nation's military, Tyler Voss. One for a historical figure who was an early settler of Bernie, Dr. Ferdinand Herf, and 2 for longtime Bernie educators, Sam Champion and Charles Currington. Ole Wilson would be the only one that served as a classroom teacher for their entire career and would be the first woman honored, which is a little unusual considering that the education profession is overwhelmingly comprised of women. So we are naming an elementary school, and Mrs. Wilson was an elementary school teacher for her entire career. And being in the business of education, naming a school for a beloved and respected lifelong classroom teacher is a good thing. So naming elementary school number 8 in honor of Mrs. Wilson seems very logical and very worthy. But I'm not done. George Mitchell was a respected and active member of the Bernie community. But the first thing I thought of when I heard the recommendation from Mr. Mitchell was, why wasn't his wife Bedelia put in there with him? Because she was as involved in the community as he was. And you can read about her contributions in the obituary that I shared with all of my fellow board members, as well as information on Crusaders Hall. And when I read about the contributions that the Mitchells made to Bernie, the word opportunity comes to mind. Opportunity for all students to grow, prosper, and become productive and educated members of our society. Bedelia Mitchell worked for Bernie ISD for 12 years as a teacher aide at Currington Elementary School, mentoring students, giving private Spanish lessons, and she gave presentations on Texas history to students in our schools and at the Bernie Library. Now, I spoke to Tommy Matthews, who was a student at Bernie High School, 70s, 80s, 70s. He's up there now. He's not as old as me, but he's up there, okay? And he was raving about what a great teacher she was, talking about Texas history. And her many civic contributions are cited in her obituary. Mr. Mitchell was one of the founders of the Crusaders Club and served as his first president from 1969 to 1971. And the story of that club is told on an interpretive sign along the Cibolo Creek trails in the flats, and it's included in yours as well. And the motto of the Crusaders was "Because we care." And they promoted understanding for the betterment of the community, awarded scholarships to needy BISD students, which we've always had, and sponsored Project Adelante to mentor Bernie students through examples of successful civic and business life. Scripture tells us in the book of Matthew, chapter 25, "For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me." And Jesus responded, "Truly I tell you, disciples. Whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. And what Jesus is saying here is that God wants our lives to overflow with mercy, love, and compassion, that caring for those in need is evidence of a faith that changes lives. And as I read this, the civic contributions made by both Mr. and Mrs. Mitchell are in keeping, to me, with this compassion. Interestingly, after the Crusaders Club ended its operations in 2019, the building and the property were sold with the proceeds, I believe it was $450,000, somewhere in that range, were donated to Sam's Kids, which stands for Students Achieving Maximum Success. And this donation will allow Sam's Kids to offer scholarships to needy Bernie students in perpetuity. What a tremendous legacy of giving by an organization that started in a small grocery store on O'Grady Street in the Flats. And all this brings me back to the word opportunity. BISD has lots of ways to offer opportunity to all of our students. We don't focus just on the college-oriented students or those that come from prosperous backgrounds, but those who also seek a career upon graduation or going in the military. We also serve students with unique life challenges, be it special needs or those that do not prosper in a traditional high school setting, which is why we have the academy. And unlike private schools, who tend to cater to one economic class and can cherry pick whom they take, public schools educate all those who enter. And I can only hope that the legislature remembers this when they have their special session this October. We'll focus on education. We are currently repurposing our old administration building to house the Bernie Academy and over 18 programs, as well as some of the other programs that Dr. Price mentioned that will house 300 students. So every bit of it is a school. And we are all aware of the good work that's done with these programs. I spent a day driving to Austin for a conference with Ricky Mooring, and he told me all sorts of stuff about the academy. And I was a fan before, but I was a bigger fan afterwards. And they're really largely responsible for our 99% plus graduation rate, which is incredible. And it's symbolic of how our district is committed to educating all of our students. To me, this shows compassion and is compatible with the community service made by the Mitchells. So the way I look at it is, I think we have two great names. We have an elementary school that would be wonderful to name after a lifelong elementary school educator and would be the first, female school named. But then we have an academy which is designed to help a lot of students of a diverse nature. And that's what a lot of the things that, the Mitchells promoted when they were in the community, serving the community. And Christina was short, they were honored, they had all sorts of honors in their lives. So I thought I would offer the suggestion that we name elementary school number 8 in honor of Mrs. Wilson, but that we name the academy in honor of George and Bedelia Mitchell, because George, it's wonderful, but behind every successful man, there's a successful woman. And I probably spoke to 4 people this weekend who all used the same word. She was a force to be reckoned with. Am I not right, Chris? Okay. And it just so it made sense to me. So that's why I thought I would offer it, okay, as an idea for us to consider.
Does anybody else have 3 pages of notes that they made?
I wrote a small report. Let me open up my laptop.
Rich, thank you for the thank you.
Yeah, and listen to that. One thing I was thinking, I don't think we had last time we named anything, Brian, or at least his full staff in place. It just makes me think of these. We do it differently on how we name things. And we have a committee that puts a lot of work into finding, I think, people that need to be upheld. And maybe there's some way it's probably too late in this process. Maybe going forward we're going to keep building. I would love to see something, and I know we communicated about it anyway, but something maybe a little more formal about let's tell the community, let's tell the history of this district and the community back to the community. I think it's a great opportunity we have where we learn all this stuff, and it's not about winning, right, on naming the school. I think it's a great opportunity to remind some folks in the community about some of the great folks we've had. So anyway, doesn't necessarily apply to this, but maybe going forward that could be like a formal, like the end result of the committee work isn't just here's a few names, but here's also like the 1-page write up, and I know you'll have all this, but you'll put it formally, and we could distribute that to the community. So anyway.
Okay. Any thoughts on the names themselves, Joe, or for the elementary, or with what Rich suggested?
You know, I want to add one other thing, and it's not about Georgia Bedelia, but Joe, you served our nation in the military, and we appreciate your service. And, you know, I was reading one of their son's obituaries a couple years ago, Thomas, and the obituary said that any time that they would play the national anthem, he would stand up and salute. And, you know, that kind of patriotism is refreshing, and we have too many people in this country that bash our country. We live in a great country, and I just thought I would add that in there because I appreciate people that love their country.
So I do have a process question, and pardon me because I know I was like the previous session, but to Rich's comments, what all are we naming right now?
So the committee was tasked in the way that it's titled as Facilities Naming Committee. So they came up with a recommendation for elementary school number 8. I think Rich's suggestion is we had some great suggestions from the committee, and if we have an additional facility, does it make sense to utilize what the committee came up with, because it wasn't designated as elementary school number 8 naming committee, it was a facilities naming committee.
And so we're process-wise, we'd be, if we chose to, we could name both of those tonight, no problem. Oh, then I like Richard's recommendation very much. So.
Christy?
I do as well.
Careful naming the building and not.
I would recommend it, naming it however it's supposed to be named, like, as long as we
Learning
honor.
center or something like
Yeah.
that. So, Jessica?
So, right. Facility is going to be where the academy is, but in the future, it could be something else. So you're talking about not naming it whatever the name we designate academy, but just keeping it as a facility, correct?
Right now, that building's scheduled to be the Bernie ISD Learning Center. So I'd recommend if you change anything, you just set whatever it is, Learning Center, because in the future, as we grow, we may repurpose the building. The academy may not be there. The academy is continuing to grow, so you may need even bigger space down the line, or you may want it on one of the high school campuses just because of facilitating better learning atmospheres for our students. So I wouldn't name a program, I would name a building, and that way, if by chance our over 18 grows and grows, academy grows and grows, or that could be where we're talking about continuing ed, it could be, but the building's always going to be there for a learning center.
I like Rich's recommendation, but in the reverse. So doing the elementary schools after the Mitchells and the Learning Center after Mrs. Wilson, if I understand that correctly.
Okay. Garrett?
And well, do we have a motion right now?
Just discussion, I think, right now.
I guess my comment would be that it's nice having really good options, right? This is a tough decision, but it's a really important decision. I love that what this says about our community, that so many people came out to have an opinion on this, and the opinion was not, somebody that it's 2 people, 3 people really that serve the community at a grassroots level. And I think that says a lot about how we view ourselves as a community, that's what we value. And I just appreciate that about Bernie, because neither one of those are founding settlers or politicians or somebody that you would say were, I guess who you normally big donors to something, right? I mean, there's some donation there, but that's not the foundation of what made these people great. So yeah, I like Rich's suggestion. I think it's good. I think either one of them would be worthy of being named on the 8th elementary. So it's
And I do like the idea of them being a couple as recognizing both Mr. and Mrs. Mitchell.
yeah, whichever way we go, I'd like to put her on there as well.
Well, then I would, if it's okay, Mr. President, I'll make a motion.
If you don't, let me just kind of talk about my conversations that
Okay,
I had
sure,
real quick
sure.
first, and then we can do a motion. Similar to Rich, I've had several phone calls, several texts, and really had much of the same sentiment. It was the texts that came to me, or the conversations were about the Mitchell family, and it wasn't about George, or it wasn't about Bedelia. It's about the family, and so I really like the association with the Learning Center, because especially if that's what we do today, that is a place where in the near term especially, our kids that go through there do a non-traditional education, and some of those kids wouldn't be in our schools at all if they didn't have the place like that to go to in the academy. And so I really think that when I look at what the Mitchell history is, makes a lot of sense to me from that naming. So I appreciate the suggestion, because to me it really made a lot of sense to honor both of them to do that. So there's no other discussion. Jessica, you kind of had a little bit different opinion. Would you feel strongly about that?
No, I think honoring both of the three names that we have either way, just trying to process the what the Learning Center is and thinking about that from an educator's point of view. So, but I don't have a stronger opinion either way, just another option.
Dr. Price, I think whatever we do, before we do a motion, we would need to make sure that final name is correct from Pitts Learning Center or whatever that needs to be. But I think any motion, we need to make sure we clear through the
Yeah, that's what I was going to
legal
ask.
counsel.
Maybe before we even have a motion, can you read out, Rich?
Yeah.
Everything was said, what the exact naming would be?
Yes, thank you. And my motion would be that the Bernie ISD Board of Trustees approve Viola Holy Wilson as the name for Bernie ISD Elementary School number 8, and that our Learning Center, our Bernie ISD Learning Center, be named the George and Bedelia Mitchell Learning Center.
I like that.
So I have a motion,
I second.
and I have a second. Is there any additional discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Same sign. All right, we have 2 new facilities named.
Thank you.
Dr. O'Hare, before you move forward, I do want to say, again, kind of echo Rich's comments. I want to say thank you to the committee. Thank you for leading that. Naming schools is right up there with redrawing elementary school boundaries, is one of the fun things you get to do as a trustee. But I think that we were presented with some really, really great options, and you really can't go wrong honoring either one of those
Yes.
families and individuals. So thank you.
The community did a really nice job of helping us out. When we did our online form for the community, we asked them not just for a name, but also for some rationale and some background and some history. So we got a lot of information on Ms. Wilson, on the Mitchell family from the community, which we really appreciated.
So you're still up, Dr. O'Hare, for
Yes, sir.
optional flexible school day program.
That's right. All right. So the optional flexible school day program allows the district to provide flexible hours and types of attendance for students who meet at least one of the requirements of the Texas Education Code under Chapter 29.0822. The goal of the program is to help improve graduation rates. It's designed for at-risk learners, students that are behind in their credits. It gives them the opportunity to work outside of the traditional attendance model where students are only counted present if they're here at the marking period. If we get the optional flexible school day program approved, which we have in years past, then these students, as long as they show up for at least 45 minutes on any given day, we can use an alternate method to get ADA for them by adding their total minutes, up to a total of 4 hours to get a complete day of ADA for them. It's mainly used at our academy setting. For those students, when you look at the application, you'll see that we've applied for Bernie High School, Champion High School, and the academy, but that's because we know we have Bernie High School and Champion High School students flowing in and out of the academy.
So I know traditionally this has been on every agenda that since I've been a trustee. It's a great program. It's great for the students. It allows them and gives them the incentive to be at school. It's great for the district to keep those students here to get them educated. So at this point in time, we are required to have a public hearing. So I would open the public hearing and ask if there are any comments related to the optional flexible school day program. No one's running towards the podium, so we'll consider that no. And so we will close the public hearing at 8:20. And Dr. O'Hare, then we will we'll proceed on to consider the adoption of the official program.
Yes, sir. We're looking for a recommendation that the Bernie ISD of Trustees approve the BISD submittal of the application for acceptance into the optional flexible day school program for the 23-24 school year.
I move that the Bernie ISD Board of Trustees approve the BISD submittal of the application for acceptance into the optional flexible school day program for the 2023-2024 school year.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other conversation or discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mrs. Davila needed to exit. She has a family member who's not feeling well. So, thank you, Dr. O'Hare. Mr. Scott, we are on to business and finance. And we're going to get a couple of months worth of financial reports from you. We did not meet last month.
On to the final 2 hours of the board meeting. Where are we? Is this on? Santi, can you hear me? Is this working at all? Good. Good deal. You have you've been provided the results of operations for the year ended June 30, 2023. As Mr. Wilson alluded to earlier, that we budgeted for a $1.8 million deficit for the 22-23 year of the general fund. The results of the unaudited results of operations to date are around $4 million. There are still just a very few journal entries being done as we wrap the year up and get ready for the auditors to start here next week. But that number is going to hover around the $4 million mark, and as was alluded to earlier, the two primary reasons for that deficit turning into a surplus were interest earnings. Interest rates going up 500 basis points from the beginning of the year had a lot to do with that, and then recapture coming in over $1.5 million, well over $1.5 million under we had originally budgeted. Other than that, I was shocked. I just can't get anybody to spend money. The Child Nutrition Fund came in at a small surplus. We were happy to see the performance of that fund, and the debt service fund, the last budgeted fund, came in at a $600,000 deficit. It was a little bit below the planned deficit of $1 million. The difference, once again, being the other two items of note on the June financial statements would have been the recognized $940,000 in donations made from various organizations throughout the year. We're very appreciative for each and every dollars given on behalf of our students. And then the tax collections would be the final note, where we came in just under 4% collections, with July and August still to go, and July collections came in very well, 600. I don't have a lot, just since July is such a so early in the year, there's really nothing of note that has happened at the time. But if you have questions or concerns about the July statements or the June statements,
So, Wes, normally we would do some budget amendments to the June financials, if I remember correctly. Obviously, we went from a projected deficit to a $4 million surplus. We've got some plans for that, but I think the I understand the process right now, we're really wanting to see what the legislature does. So we're going to postpone any final budget amendments for the fiscal year that ended June 30th until we get legislative action or inaction to make those final decisions. Okay?
Yes, because of the potential for such a great swing depending on what they could do or not do. We need to wait to see what kind of enrollment and projected attendance we have. We get a little bit farther in to make some pretty good suggestions.
Okay. Questions for Mr. Scott? For June or July?
Just a comment, with the expected $4 million surplus for the 22-23 year, that would put our fund balance at just under 3.3 months, which is a very good amount. It puts us in a good shape. Just 6 years ago, it was 2.4 months, and back in 06-07 was 1.5 months. So the district is in better financial shape now than I think it's probably been in a long time. So I think that's good. It gives us flexibility to do some things we may want to do this year. So it's good.
So if there are
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you, Mr. Scott, for those. And now we move on to the defeasance resolution.
You have before you defeasance orders for the 2022 variable debt rate obligation and the 2014 refunding. This is very good practice by the district to declare these defeasance. We're not required to by law, but it does help us justify the 32% tax rate. I just want to remind that we're not committed to specific amounts for those two. It just gives us the option. We'll choose the best option as far as what makes sense strategically and what saves the taxpayer's interest. 7 years. So going back to the 2019 refunding, we've saved approximately $46,028,597 in interest. That does not include our venture into variable debt rate obligations, and for the 1 year that we did in December of 22 versus doing a traditional 30-year debt obligation, we saved $655,000 in 1 year. For the 4-year BRDO that we did in the spring, that's $2.9 million over 4 years versus a 30-year obligation. So I was way off when I was talking about $50 million. When we talk about the potential $12 million that we have in savings, we're actually approaching $60 million. Sure.
Outstanding. Any questions about the defeasance resolution?
No, just a couple of comments that I notice it says at least 18 million, and I know we'll have a firmer idea as we get closer to the actual date of us doing the defeasance, but this represents over 5% of the debt that the district has. And what defeasance means is we're paying this debt off early. So for instance, the 2022 bond, which the voters approved, was for $165 million. We sold $45 million of that in August of 22, $65 million of that in April of this year, and the remaining $55 million sometime next year. With this defeasance, we will have paid off in 16 months just under 2/3 of the bonds that we sold in August of 22. Almost 2/3 of that 45 million. And I don't know that we've ever been in a position to do that before. So I know there were all sorts of concerns during the bond campaign about 40-year notes and all this interest. And I just did a little calculation that by December or by the end of this fiscal year, for every dollar of interest we've paid off about $6 in principal. And those that opposed our bond had it the other way. It was like $1.50 of interest for every dollar of principal. And so I'm pleased that we're in a position to do this because we are a growing district, and we'll eventually have to have another bond. So if we can show the taxpayers that not only do we have the lowest, and I don't know if it'll stay that way, the lowest INS tax rate, but that we're also responsible in paying off debt in a timely fashion that saves millions of dollars of interest in the future, I think that's a good thing.
Very well said.
You feeling lonely over there, Garrett?
It's a little lonely, yeah.
All right, if there's no further discussion, I'd entertain a motion.
I move to approve the district's defeasance resolution.
Have a motion and a second from Mr. Wilson. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, final item of business is future items. Our September meeting will be held on the 18th. We'll be discussing the advanced academics report, EL and bilingual report, our annual investment policy review, investment officer resolution, and investment broker-dealer resolution. That's a lot of Wesley Scott time.
Mr. President, I did actually have a question. When are we going to adopt our tax rate? Because there's a good friend of mine in the audience tonight who is a tax zealot. And he keeps bugging me, how much is your tax rate going to go down? I said, at least 10 cents. He goes, I want 12. I said, what if we do 12? I want 14. So when do you think we're going to know, or do you already have an idea?
We'll be bringing the tax rate forward for adoption in September, and that will be almost an 18-cent reduction.
Well, that's more than 12 or 14, Maxie.
All right, if there are no further items, I have a motion for adjournment. There we go. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Have a great evening. Thanks, everyone.